Hi, everybody. It's Joe Cioffi here on this now Tuesday morning, because we're after the midnight hour. What an incredible meteorological event that it took place with respect to Hurricane Maria, which at 2 this afternoon had a pressure of 956 millibars, and at 8 o'clock it was down. It was at 929, Category 5, 180 mile an hour winds, just as it made landfall on the island of Dominica, and that's a 27 millibar drop in 6 hours. That is incredible. 4 millibars an hour. I don't have the exact time from the beginning to end, but you know what? It's not going to be off by that much, and you just don't see it that often. Now, what I did was, I've got 2 pictures here of the 2 Category 5 hurricanes that we've had this season, and both of them in the last 2 weeks. Amazing, and almost in the same spot. Irma on one side, and that shot is when the very large eye of Irma was right over the island of Barbuda. And then we have tonight with Maria, and the eye, very, very small, sitting over the island of Dominica. It went right in. And when I'm going to show you the loop here, because the loop is just incredible. Remember, we were watching Irma bouncing off those islands on the north coast of Cuba, one by one. It would just move over it and bounce off, and then move over the next one and bounce off. Well, this one is a little different, and frankly, it's very frightening in a lot of ways. But I'm going to put it up for you. Let me just take off these 2 pictures. I'm going to save this one, but let me just make it smaller, and I'm going to put the full loop of Maria. You know, I got to tell you, when working tonight with all these hurricanes that we've dealt with these major hurricanes, I was just literally not. I wasn't even able to make coherent sentences anymore with all the weather updates that I did tonight. But here's the loop. Now watch the eye. Look how it comes in the southeast corner of the island and just basically runs the whole island through. The eye actually jogs northwestward and rolls over the entire island. I can't imagine what kind of devastation it must have left in its wake as a Category 5 to come in with 180 mile an hour winds. And look at that. Look at how the eye just traveled right across the whole island from bottom to top. I just wonder. I really wonder what they're going to find when they go back. I'm going to freshen this up to see if the eyes moved off. Where'd it go? Here we go. Now, the eye is now just emerging on the northwest side. It literally moved over the entire island from the south to the north like that. That is just amazing to me. That's as amazing as when Irma bounced off those islands off the Keys. Just incredible. And now it is going to emerge and probably track just south of some of the islands in the northern Leeward. So they're going to get into certainly tropical storm force winds, but the projected track is going to take this right over the Virgin Islands and right over Puerto Rico. That island, David Merritt, is the island of Dominica that it went over. Martinique is the big island to the south. Okay, Barbados is the one that's way out over here. That's out to the east, right along 13 north. But that island is Dominica. The island to the north is Guadeloupe. And St. Martin, St. Kitts, those islands are right up here. They're going to miss the eye. The eye should travel just south of them, but then it's right in line to head over into the whole all of the Virgin Islands, and then perhaps moving across Puerto Rico on a diagonal. It's just incredible here. So let me just roll this back. We'll bring it up a little bit later, and we'll show you the projected hurricane tracks going forward. This is going to sadly more devastation to come, because the upper air conditions are ripe for rapid, continue for strengthening. Now, the Air Force reconnaissance aircraft is going to be able to go back in to Maria shortly, so we'll see what it's going to find. I imagine it'll probably find that the pressure rose a little bit, but it may still be every bit of a Category 4. May have even come out as a 5. It didn't spend a lot of time over that island, and then it's going to probably be a Category 4 or a Category 5 as it approaches the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. And you can see that the hurricane model tracks are all very, very tightly clustered, moving into Puerto Rico on the east side, and then cutting out on the northwest side, or just to the north. So this is going to be a direct pass over the Virgin Islands, and likely a direct pass over Puerto Rico. It also appears, based on the model guidance, if it's correct, based on its the current track and the forecast track, that it should pass the north coast of the Dominican Republic by a fair distance. I mean, they probably would have tropical storm force winds, but perhaps the core of the hurricane will stay just offshore. But we got to be careful here, because this is where Irma started doing those southern adjustments. So a lot of this is going to depend on the strength of the ridge to the north, and ultimately Jose, which is going to try to create a trough and weaken that ridge. So a lot of little, lot of little pieces to this puzzle that are at play here. This is going to be touch and go. A slight change in the strength of the ridge or in the depth of the trough could mean, a 5 or 10 degree shift in the track, and that may make the difference between a Category 5 going over you or going by you. And I would not, by the way, with the fact that we have very warm water, light, almost non-existent wind shear, and good, excellent inflow and outflow. The core of this hurricane is, in terms of its structure, is about as good as it gets. I would not be surprised if we take out that lowest pressure and go even lower. The Hurricane Center even indicated that conditions are favored for further strengthening. It's amazing that you can get to this level and talk in terms of further strengthening. Let me see if this is the right recon. Otherwise, I'll pull the Maria one and show you the last recon report from Maria. This is Jose. Okay, so let me, you know what? Hang on, folks. I'm going to try and get, I'm going to see if I can pull up the Maria recon, the last one. And the plane is supposed to be flying in, right back in. I wonder if they, where do they fly back to? Oh, they're in storm. Oh, we do have a very good shot here. Okay. Excellent. And this was taken just a few minutes ago, so this is even better. Okay, good. We're going to get a real-time recon report here now. So let's do that. Hang on. Here we go. And loading up. Look at this. This is the current reconnaissance plane. So it went from a 928 millibars crossing the island. Now the center has emerged on the other side. So it filled 18 millibars to 946. And if you look at the wind, the colors of the wind barbs, you've got 113 to 137, 113 to 137 around the center here. There's another small patches. The eye moved off on the northeast side. There's 113 to 137 knots. So, it may have come down a little bit in strength, certainly by the pressure it did. So the winds may be a little bit lower. They were carrying 160 as it moved across and 180 just as it moved inland. So I'm going to guess they're going to find, it might be a little bit lower. But once that eye gets a little further to the east, and it won't have to be much further because these islands are small, you'll likely to see this pressure drop again. I think it's going to be at the very least a Category 4 when it approaches the Virgin Islands, and do not be at all surprised if it winds up being a Category 5 when it gets there. It's just amazing, this hurricane season. I can remember some of you saying in some of the comments I saw, saying how inactive this season was. Well, it wasn't quite true. It's just that everything that we had was just basically a tropical storm. Now, I think you'll take back the fact that you thought the season wasn't active. These 4 weeks have been just amazing. I have never seen anything like this. We've had, 4 majors in a row here, and it's been, I think we've had a major hurricane on the map somewhere every day for the last 4 weeks. I'm not 100% sure on that. I bet you Anthony Orr, who's on right now, who knows this stuff like the back of his hand, might be able to find that out. I just wonder, from the time that Harvey became a Category 4, has there been one on the map somewhere every day or almost every day for the last 4 weeks? That would be, a good trivia thing to look at. Now, let's look at Jose. I'm going to come back to Maria in a little bit, but let's look at Jose, because at the end of the day, Jose is going to be intricately tied to Maria in the long range. So let me bring Jose up. And funny thing tonight with Jose is it approached 35 degrees north. The wall of the Gulf Stream is out here, not too far from where the center is. Jose actually stalled for about 3 or 4 hours, which was a bit of a surprise. And you can see that what happened is the thunderstorms began flaring up again in and around the center. So it's still trying to hold on to its tropical characteristics. It's going to lose those soon as the center of this is moving toward the north, and it's really starting to it's gradually becoming a more of an extratropical cyclone, which it will be in another day or two for sure. But in the meantime, it is moving toward the north. It looks like the center is somewhere in here. It's a little hard to find because we go to the infrared, so I'm having a tough time seeing it. But it looked like from the visible, it was right in there. So it's close to 72 degrees west again. And it also is throwing back clouds and rain showers not too far off the Carolina coast. So Jose's trying to hang on. We've got the wider shot with respect to the northeast. Let me bring it to the top. And we'll make it bigger. And there you can see it. Now I'm seeing, actually my wind has picked up a little bit. It's northeast at about 10 to 15 knots where I am. So it is moving the leaves around at least, but you certainly can feel it. And there's the center. It's kind of slow, very slowly coiling northward. This giant comma that's sitting out here, riding up to the north. Clouds are beginning to push back to the northwest, and there's some rain offshore that'll probably get to the coast tomorrow morning. Now, with respect to Jose, we do have tropical storm warnings up from just east of Block Island over into southeastern Mass, and there's a tropical storm watch up for me where I am. I'm on the western edge of that tropical storm watch, but if you didn't know there was a tropical system out there, the weather that we'll probably experience tomorrow is not going to be anything extraordinary. So I'm not really too concerned. And here are the tracks for Jose, all doing that turn to the northeast, and then this attempt for another clockwise loop. It's just going to linger out here and probably weaken. And again, it's going to have an impact on Maria in the longer term with the track, and we'll show you the upper air with that. And I want to come back. You know what? Let me come back to Maria, because I know there are new. Some of you have joined late. If you have, welcome. I want you to look at this incredible satellite loop that we have with Maria here. Nope, that's Jose. My fault. Sorry. Been a very long day, folks. I have to tell you, with all these storms running around. Now look at this. If you're just getting here, if you're late in the game, look at the eye. At the point that it made landfall, it was a Category 5 hurricane with 180-mile-an-hour winds, and that eye comes in the southeastern corner of the island, then turns northwestward and travels over the entire island, and then comes out on the northwest side back into the open waters where it is now. It is as incredible as it was with Irma when Irma bounced over and off virtually each of the islands in the Cuban Keys on the north coast on that Saturday night a couple of weeks ago. Unbelievable. Okay, so why don't we take a look at what the GFS has to say with all of this. Just trying to stay awake, folks. It's been very hard today. Let me make sure I got the right run. Always likes to put the wrong run on. I'm not sure why it defaults to 2 runs back all the time, but it seems to. Now the GFS is actually, and I just wonder about this now because the GFS, from where the center of Jose is at the moment, it almost has it straight to the east, and that just seems a little far-fetched to me. But it actually has it, well, maybe not that far east, but it's at 36 and 71.6 on the GFS at 2 a.m. And I think it's west of there, looking at the satellite, in my opinion. So it moves it northeast, and actually now on this run, it brings very little weather to any of the coastline. And you see how it comes to a grinding halt by Friday and kind of starts to drop southward and drift around. And then you start to see Maria come into the scene to its southwest as a Category 5, passing east of the Bahamas. And here's the thing. Jose's going to have impact on the ultimate track. So we're going to see some impact here in terms of the motion. I just want to stop for a second. Anthony Orr, Maria has winds of 180. The winds are 160. They sent out a special advisory at 7:45. Carrying a 180 on the winds, unless they said they corrected it, but that's what they carried at 7:45, Anthony. You might want to check that on one of their hourly updates. And then when they put out the advisory, then they went down, brought it back down to 160. But you know, unless there was a correction there that I missed, you might want to double check on that. I'll do the same. I pulled it up on the archive and it said 180. But here we go. You've got Jose and Maria very close together, and you can see the isobar here that comes out. Thank you, James CIP. Coffee for me after I get sleep first, so I'm not going to have one now. The circulation of Jose is not that far from Maria here, so who knows? There could be a Fujiwara effect where they kind of rotate around each other. The hurricane, Dr. Jerdy 1, has moved offshore. The eye has passed offshore Dominica, but it crossed the entire island this evening as a Category 5 hurricane. So Maria, at this point, and we are out now as far as we have, which is into day 7 next Tuesday, right about this time, sitting somewhere off the southeast coast of the United States. So why don't we look at what the upper air is telling us with all of this. And we'll put that up. And I'll go to the North Atlantic because that will be the better region to look at. Here we go. Thank you. I don't know how it knew to do that. I didn't even pick the region. It picked it on its own. Okay, so I'm not sure why it's... Okay, here we go. So we got it moving now. So I'm just jumping ahead to Wednesday, to tomorrow night, and there's an upper high just to the north of Maria here. You see where Jose is off the east coast, the upper feature with Jose, and we'll watch it play out. You know, the ridge holds going into Thursday into Friday, and then begins to weaken as Jose moves east southeast and then south. Okay, the ridge is to the east of Maria. Jose is to on the north side of the ridge, and as we have out now to 180 hours, you can see that Jose just basically disappears at this point late in the game, and you're left with just Maria kind of dangling off the southeast coast there. But one of the issues is, well, where's it going to go? And if you look at the flow, it's still pretty weak here along the east coast. You have a ridge in the east still and a trough way out in the west in the Rockies. So the flow is going to be fairly weak. It may just kind of drift around the edge of the upper ridge. So how strong that ridge is and how fast Jose gets out of the way is going to be a big deal here. Also, if Jose doesn't do that loop, if for some reason it just finds a way to sort of kick itself out to the east, that could mean for a stronger ridge and a more westerly track. So we have to at least allow for that possibility that we could see that. Okay, the weather models are not necessarily written in stone here in terms of what may or may not happen. So there's a lot of variability here in the outcome as far as Maria is concerned. But the short range is going to be okay, so you're saying winds of 160 with higher gusts. Special advisory will be issued at 8 o'clock in lieu of scheduled intermediate advisory. This is at 7:45. I could swear I saw 180. Did I make a mistake? Was I that wrapped up in everything? Hang on, I'm gonna look this up right now. In the meantime, let me put the loop up. Hold on, before I look it up, I'm going to put the loop up of Maria, so you can at least, for those of you who are late, you can watch the eye as it moves on shore on the island of Dominica, and then travels through the whole island. So let me just get that to the top of the screen here, and okay, so I'll have that. You can take a look at that. I'll freshen it also. Okay, so there goes the loop. Look at that eye. That is just incredible. Every time I look at it, it just amazes me. Okay, so you guys, hang on one second. I'm just going to go back on the archive to see what was it I saw. Very, very tiring. I want this, this is a hurricane season to remember. All right, so 7:45. Why did I see an 8 instead of a 6? Oh my God, I made a mistake. I stand corrected. Thank you for keeping me square, Anthony. I really appreciate it. So let me correct that. It was 160 miles an hour, not 180. Where I got 180 from, I don't know. It's my tired old eyes. I apologize. So 160 was the top wind, okay? But, okay, almost as formidable as 180, but 160 certainly qualifies it for a Category 5. My mistake, 160, not 180. Yeah, Anthony, I do. I mean, tonight was crazy because I've had to, I'm dealing with Jose for my own backyard, and suddenly this thing blows up with top winds of 160, not 180. I have new glasses that I got a couple of months ago. I'm still wearing my old ones, so the tired eyes of looking at computer screens all day. But anyhow, you can. It's just I'm marveling at the season that this is. I thought 2005 was crazy, but these 4 weeks have been just unbelievable, just unbelievable. All right, so let me see if I can get some of your questions here. Let's see. All right, so you guys, yeah, I'm not seeing many questions, so that's good. Maybe my brain won't tackle them very well. If I had to, I think the odds are that this thing is going to wind up turning. I wonder if it's going to turn before it gets to the Bahamas or not. But first things first, we have the potential for a Category 4 or a Category 5 hurricane going into the Virgin Islands and in the Bahamas. And if you didn't, I mentioned this on my earlier video, but I did get a message from someone in the island of St. Thomas who told me that as far as communications was concerned, they had very little, and for that matter, they didn't have very much of anything else. And those were her words, which I thought that was horribly sad to hear, because of what they went through with Irma, and now they're sitting here having to deal with the prospects of Maria moving their way. And you know what? I've been doing this because just in case there are people in some of those islands where communications is very sparse, I want to just go over from the 11 o'clock advisory. I'll pull that back up, and we'll go over on the 11 o'clock advisory all the warnings, so that if there's someone, maybe someone might be watching or listening, and they want to have some information to work with. So hang on, I'll on the public advisory, the eye at the time was right over the island of Dominica. It is now, by the way, 270 miles southeast of St. Croix in the Virgin Islands. Movement is west-northwest, 300 degrees at 9 miles an hour, and the last pressure before landfall was 924 millibars. We just saw the plane; it was back up into the 940s, so it did weaken somewhat in terms of pressure. But I'm sure, and the winds have probably come down, but it's still a Category 4, I'm sure. Okay, so here's the warnings that are up. Warnings are up for Guadeloupe, Dominica, St. Kitts, Nevis, Montserrat, the U.S. Virgin Islands, the British Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Culebra, and Vieques. A tropical storm warning is in effect for Antigua, Barbuda, Saba, St. Eustatius, St. Martin, Anguilla, St. Lucia, and Martinique. And we have hurricane watches up for Saba, St. Eustatius, St. Martin, the French side, St. Martin, the Dutch side, St. Bartholomew, Anguilla, Isla Saona, and Puerto Plata. And a tropical storm watch is in effect for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, west of Puerto Plata, to the northern Dominican Republic, Haiti border. So we have tropical storm watches up for the Dominican Republic from Puerto Plata west to the border with Haiti. So hopefully that gives you at least a little something in terms of what's going on. And again, after raking the islands, it looks like Tuesday and Wednesday for the Virgin Islands and for Puerto Rico. This is not good, folks. This is not good to see a 4 or a 5 going into these islands. Didn't Puerto Rico get hit by Irma already? Puerto Rico Pugmaster Irma passed off the north coast of Puerto Rico. The coastal areas and just inland experienced tropical storm conditions, but the core of the hurricane remained just to the north of Puerto Rico. So it just was a swipe. As Scott Reese is correct, a side swipe. And yeah, this could be a situation, of course, with massive mudslides, along with the wind damage that they're going to sustain with taking a 4 or a 5 on shore. Thanks, Stephen Schnerman. Yeah, that's it wasn't as strong a call as it was actually a fairly easy call to make, because that's usually what happens when they get north of 35 degrees north, that they start to behave more like nor'easters as they go northward, which, it would be still formidable. But, the absence of a deep trough makes a huge difference here. This thing is coming up when we have a ridge position in the eastern part of the United States. So it's not really if there was a deep trough that this was accelerating into, this would be quite the storm that would be coming up to the northeast right now with wind and rain. But because it's coming up with a ridge, it's moving very, very slowly. And once it gets north of that Gulf Stream wall, it's going to weaken. So you're going to see its character change quite a bit in the next 24 hours. Does it look like... I'm sorry, my eyes are a mess. Does it look like Maria is going to hit Puerto Rico directly at this time? Mock drums. Yeah, I mean, looking at what I saw on the forecast track, it looks like it's going to pass over the Virgin Islands and probably pass over the Puerto Rico on the northeast side. Or if it misses, it's going to barely miss. Okay, it's going to take a slight shift in the track would cause it to cause the eye to just miss going on land. But the core of I think they're going to get at least part of that core, and where the eye comes in, if it's coming in from the east or the southeast, if it comes in closer to the southern part of the island, then the eye is going to go inland and cover a large amount of solid ground, as opposed to being partially over the Atlantic Ocean. It's going to be the track over the next day or two so critical. Hurricane Georges in 1998, devastating to Puerto Rico. Maria is a horrible hurricane. Oh my, that's a great way to describe it. Just absolutely horrible. How incredible that the Leewards, every year there's some place that kind of gets a multiple hit. But and getting a multiple hit is one thing, but to have two major hurricanes, actually three, getting grazed by Jose, to have three major hurricanes pass so close to you, or in the case of Irma, over Barbuda, in the case of Maria, over the island of Dominica, to have that happen three times in 2 weeks. If I lived there, I wouldn't even I couldn't even begin to fathom that. One was enough. Could you imagine three? And I can't. Just amazing. It's just, I don't know. It's awesome. I'm in awe. Nature's power here at its absolute worst. I'm in complete awe of this. Irma did get bigger later, Scott Reese, and you're probably going to see that happen here in terms of the size. These compact storms, sometimes they do wind up expanding, and in Irma's case, it maintained strength as well. Sometimes when they expand, they energy spreads out just a little bit, but in Irma's case, that didn't quite happen that way, and I'm thinking that in Maria's case, it may not happen that way either. Yeah, from the loop, it does look like that Maria is getting bigger. I keep mixing it up. Let me give this a freshening. See if there's a new frame. No, but again, for those of you who've joined late, the eye moved right over the island of Dominica as a Category 5, 160 mile an hour winds. I mistakenly said 180, 160. Crosses the entire island, and look very closely how the eye literally came in at the southern end, crossed the whole island, and came out on the northern end. I've never, again, this has really got me. I just couldn't believe it. Why don't we take a look at the GFS? Might be out a little bit further. We can see where it's going. We know what the game plan is here with the model and the upper pattern on the East Coast. Remember, those of you who may be here for the first time, those of you who are here most of the time know what the rule is beyond the fifth day of the GFS. The model gets squirrely. By squirrely, I mean it just starts to do a lot of different things that may or may not have any meteorological value to them, but we'll take a look because, we are always curious about what the model does. But as long as we understand what the general upper air pattern is, we can sometimes figure out where the model may be right and where the model may be wrong. So as we last left it, I'll start it from the beginning again. So those of you who've just joined us. So you can see Jose off the east coast, Maria over the Leeward Islands, crossing the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, just to the north of the Dominican Republic. Jose, in the meantime, is dropping southward. Maria is now skimming the southeastern Bahamas and then passing east of most of the Bahama Islands as what looks like, based on the pressure, a Category 5. And it's also going to be traveling over the same waters that Jose just did. So there might be some upwelling issues that might come into play there. So we'll want to remember that. And as we go out, it does seem to want to take it up and out offshore as a trough begins to swing across the eastern part of the United States. So that trough in the west may be breaking down, according to the GFS, and some kind of cold fronts coming through here. The date is, at this point, we're at next Thursday. I will be fishing next week upstate. So, but I'm taking my stuff with me, so don't worry. So here's the rollback again. That's a nice little trough that the model brings in at day 9. So let me look at the upper air. Where is it? Okay, I'm gonna go change regions. It'll make it easier if I do that first. Let's do North America. We start to get close to the winter months. You're going to see this map more often anyway. There we go. No, I made a mistake. Actually, this might not be a bad one to look at. So you see that upper high in the east? When Maria's in the Bahamas, breaks down somewhat, and then you've got this trough that swings around. You know what? This is interesting. We're going to have to watch how this really evolves. I'm not 100% sold that it's going to exactly look like this. This might be something that we could have to pay attention to down the road. We'll see. But eventually, it does finally break that ridge down and brings a vortex over into north of Lake Superior. So that might, mean a pattern change here. Could be coming in the next after the 7th or 8th day. So I'm going to maybe pay a little closer attention to that as we move into the long range. But in the meantime, this actually shows the ridge. You see the upper high. There's an upper high north of Maria in the Atlantic, and then that ridge basically breaks down. That lets Maria come northward. The Atlantic ridge. You still have a ridge up in the eastern part of the United States, but you do have this trough swinging around. So I think we're going to pay a little closer attention. That has me a little intrigued for the longer term. But for now, we're going to just focus on the short range and see where Maria ultimately winds up. So I'm going to put in. Let me just minimize this so I can get back you guys on the screen here. So you know what? It's coming up to 40 minutes in, and I'm really very, very tired. I almost decided not to do this tonight because I'm so wiped out. Doug Wetzel, thank you very much for hitting Super Chat tonight. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And also another gig, James CIP. Thanks again for hitting Super Chat. I appreciate it. Okay, so you know what? I need a good night's sleep here. We're going to find out probably in the morning. We're going to hear about what happened on the island of Dominica after Category 5 Maria passed over. and now on the way to the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. And let's not forget the fact that it's going to be ravaging some of the other Leeward Islands, even though the eye may not pass over any more of them. They may become very close. So this is a hurricane season to remember. We're certainly making up for the last 12 years of not seeing majors making landfall in the United States, and now we're seeing 2 Category 5 hurricanes here in 1 year. You can go years without seeing a Category 5 hurricane, and even a decade or more. And here we have 2 of them in one season, and this one is not done yet. I think this may get back to a 5 again, and I wonder with the upper air conditions the way they are, where we may take this pressure down quite low before it makes landfall in Puerto Rico or the Virgin Islands. So, all right, folks, we'll see you in the morning, and we'll check in and see what's going on. Everybody have a good night's sleep. I hope you had a great Monday. I want you to have a great Tuesday, and we'll talk to you in the morning.